Gang is all here. It's time for happy hour once again. Good to see everyone. Yeah, cheers, everybody. And we've got James Click. We've got a newbie with us.
Yes.
James, I hear you're a Houstonian.
Orange Cup, he's fitting in. There you go.
Yes, Orange Solo Cup. Hey, I hear you're a Houstonian now?
Yes. As you can see, we have changed the background from my normal background. So yeah, we're here. We got here this weekend. So I got my COVID test today. So once I get the results back on that, I'll be able to come in and say hi to the guys and get things moving. So
was that part of the loan process?
I mean, yeah. Yeah. But I mean, they got that thing like way back up there, man. It's up there. But yeah, so we're here. We're excited.
Things are no joke, man.
What's that?
They're no joke. Yeah, he said they were no joke.
Hey,
yeah.
Yeah, those things are skull scrapers, man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was behind my eyeball. It felt like it was, it was up there. But the players' ones are the spit tests, so they don't have to do that every day. So hopefully that'll be, a little bit easier. But yeah, so it'll be nice to get the results on that and get down to the clubhouse and say hi to guys.
Are you excited about what's coming up? Are you excited about this week?
Yeah. I mean, it was on the calls last week about the draft. I was talking to Pete Patilla afterwards, and we were just talking about the fact that he pointed out like how nice it was to talk about players and to like feel like, this is a draft meeting. We're going to, it's all right. Here's, Johnny from Oklahoma. Here's Billy from Arkansas. Let's talk through it. Let's talk through their stuff. Let's talk through their swing. Let's, all that kind of stuff. As normal as it could feel over a computer, it felt normal. And it was just really nice to come out of that. And it just, so many of these guys, you finish up the call and you're like, man, they're all big leaguers. Like, this is going to be great. We're going to get 5 Hall of Famers out of 4 picks. It's going to be unbelievable. So, we're excited.
That's what we expect.
What's that?
That's what we expect.
I know. It's what we expect too.
So James, how is it with information? How comfortable are you with the information you have? Because obviously, and every team has this disadvantage right now because, there are high school kids who didn't play any games this spring, and but everybody either, if they did play, they had a truncated season. And, how are you guys feeling in terms of the information and just the stuff you have on guys, even though you haven't seen them play in months?
It's a challenge, especially with high school kids. I mean, I think we all remember the differences between 16 years old and 17-year-olds old and 18 years old. And these kids can just, they grow 4 inches over the summer, and all of a sudden they're throwing 5-6 miles an hour harder. And so if you only see it for 4 or 5 starts, how real is that? Is that just a guy off to a good start? Is that a guy beating up on lesser competition, as a hitter, maybe in that February part of the college schedule? So it's a challenge, but we have the advantage of having a very experienced group here when it comes to data, when it comes to video, when it comes to analyzing the game through that lens. And from that perspective, we feel very good about the group that we have and our ability to maximize the limited information, at least for this year, that we have on these kids. The nice thing about a lot of this data is that it, stabilizes, for lack of a better word, like very quickly. So you see a guy coming out and you can be pretty confident in what you see in a very small sample, maybe more so than you could 10 years ago before we had some of this technology. So it's going to be a challenge. It's a very real challenge, but I think our group is particularly well set up to handle it.
James, I think you were joking about 5 Hall of Famers and 4 picks, but in the past, when you were part of war rooms, you get through that 3rd day, there's a bit of an exhale moment. It seems like this year with only 5 rounds, you get through that 5th round, and now it's kind of the free-for-all where there's so much talent out there. What's that? What do you foresee that like this year?
We've never seen anything like it. And it's not even just about, how many kids want to sign. It's about what the college landscape is going to look like next year with the extra eligibility. Most of these colleges anticipate a lot of kids getting drafted, and so they hand out maybe more scholarships than they have room for. We don't know how those dynamics are going to play out, but we have done a lot of work. Our creative services group has helped us out to try to put our best foot forward, saying, come be an Astro, and here's why. Because we feel like we have a player development crew that is second to none. We feel like we have an ability to take talent and develop it into major league talent better than anybody, through technology, through coaching, through growth mindset, through whatever you want to do. And so a lot of this is going to be not unlike other sports when they're recruiting free agents. And, in the NBA, they can all offer the exact same contract. It's going to be the things besides the money that you're going to have to lean on to try to convince these kids that this is the place where they can have the best shot to be a major leaguer. And we feel strongly that that's what we are.
Hey, James, with this being your first, I'm guessing this is going to be completely different than future drafts for you as well, but how is this going to go down? What's it going to be like when you guys get ready for the draft? Who's all going to be involved? I'm guessing there's video conferencing.
Yeah, we're working on that because we're trying to recreate a draft room, but you have to be able to recreate like smaller conversations. And, so I might have like one Zoom call on my phone, another on my iPad, another on the laptop, because you're going to be talking to different groups of people, just like you would in a normal draft room, where you would go around and be like, okay, like you're the area scout. You saw this guy, this kid, like, tell me about it. And then you go to the cross checker, and then you go to the, somebody else, the analysis guys, the data guys, something like that. And trying to recreate the ability to have all those conversations virtually is something that, I think we're doing a couple dry runs. Hopefully there's not a thunderstorm. There's going to be some challenges, but, we have a lot of very talented player evaluators here, and just trying to put all of them in a position where we can communicate effectively. Fortunately, the draft will be a little slower this year. It'll be 2 minutes between picks instead of 1. So we will have a little extra time, but we're going to use all the technology at our fingertips that we can, whether it's, Slack, email, text, everything, because, the draft can move very, very fast if you're not prepared. And I guess that's another thing to mention, like, you have to be locked down on this. You have to be prepared. You have to have your board lined up. Because if you don't, you're going to get exposed very, very quickly. And that's something that we feel really good about where we are with our board right now.
James, have you gotten a good sense about the player development within the Astros organization compared to what you experienced with the Rays? And once you draft these guys, it's all about player development after that. So if that's not in place and it's not great, then it doesn't really matter. So how good do you feel about player development with the Astros?
I can't express like how impressed I have been by, in particular, the coordinators. I have regular calls with different groups of people around the Astros, and one of them is with the player development coordinators. And that's obviously an area that Pete Patilla is very familiar with. And so I lean on him very heavily for those calls and those relationships. But watching those guys come up with new ways for players to train, for players to continue to improve when you can't play baseball, has been a lot of fun. Some of the videos they send of these drills that they're coming up with for these guys, and they're coming up with a drill database where it's like, okay, this guy tried this drill and he got better. This guy tried this drill and he did, just like the ability to do that has been really impressive. And the Rays' ability to develop pitching is, obviously everybody can see how well they have done there. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be a challenge to keep up with that in particular, but I don't see any reason, based on the conversations that I've had and the things that I've seen around the Astros, why we can't just be at the forefront of player development. And we're going to have to be if we want to keep this thing sustainable. We want to keep producing major league players. If we're picking at the back of the first round or the back of the second round or later in the draft, that's the challenge, is turning a second rounder into a first rounder, turning a third rounder into a second rounder. The way you do that is through player development.
And I think what's interesting about this draft is in a normal season, you'd be able to draft a guy and send him to short season A ball or send him to A ball and let him go play the game. You're not going to have that opportunity this season. My first question, I've got two questions. So the first one is, what is your plan for some of these players that you draft in the offseason? And number two, if you get the guy you want, is there the potential that he makes that taxi squad?
That is a good question. I hadn't thought about that, honestly. Most of these guys, they haven't played since February. And so it's just you're gonna have to get just such a high degree of confidence in their state of their ability right now. I think it's a really, really hard thing to ask a kid to go from playing, a couple weeks of college baseball to being on a taxi squad with a bunch of guys with a lot of major league experience. I mean, I don't want to put anybody in that kind of situation. That said, talent's talent. And if somebody's showing that they got it, I think we'd have to consider that. I just don't know if we're going to have the ability to, the way the timeline works, sign a kid before we have to establish who's the taxi squad. So it probably solves for itself. But yeah, good question. I don't know. That's a good one. I hadn't thought about it.
Mentioned you had the COVID-19 test so you could interact with the guys. What's the scene like right now? Obviously it's limited, but what's happening at Minute Maid Park?
Yeah, it's still individual workouts. It's still very staggered because it's a maximum of 4 players in there at any time. It's a maximum of 2 guys in the field at any time. I've pointed out that the baseball field is very large and you can fit quite a few players on there at the same time without them getting close to each other. But, Major League Baseball has told us that this is the regulation, so we're abiding by it. It's been exciting to get the reports of, okay, this morning the following 4 guys came in, and in the afternoon these guys came in. And Jeremiah and Vern and these guys will send me videos and they'll send me updates and Chris Spire is there and we've got some other coaches in town that are there. And so it's exciting to get those reports and hear those things and to get video of Bregman taking swings and hear the ball off the bat. And you not that you forget it, but you forget what it feels like to hear that and how much fun it is.
You probably, you're talking about moving into your house there in Houston, but you probably didn't even get a chance to move into an office at Minute Maid Park, right? You haven't even settled in Houston. We all took off for Florida.
Yeah, I was in an office for 4 days. I think it's still there. I'm not sure.
And do you know how to get to it?
No. So last week I'm talking to Pete and I'm like, hey man, we're gonna be driving out there. The moving truck's coming. We're gonna be driving, and he's like, do you have a parking pass? And I'm like, I think so. And he's like, do you know how to get in the parking garage? And I'm like, no. Yeah, I'm having to, normally you think you call your assistant GM or you call your scouting director and you want to say hey, tell me about this player or tell me about this. And I'm calling these guys being like, guys, where's my office?
Small detail, right?
Yeah, but right now, we just moved into the house here in Houston. It has an office here that is great. I can shut the door and try to keep focused. So my plan right now is to do the draft from here. We will have some of the guys in Minute Maid, but I like the idea of having, even if we were together in Minute Maid or at the Astros offices, we're not allowed to be in the same office. We're not even allowed to be kind of in offices that are near each other. And so it's not like we have a physical draft room. So the plan right now is to have a couple different locations just as backups and to make sure that if we get a thunderstorm or if we get a hurricane or whatever, that we're okay, that somebody's there to make the pick. So if we all get taken out, let's see, Blummer, I'll trust you. You can call.
Blummer's the Secretary of State in this scenario, right?
I'm calling the National Weather Service right now to double check, man. I want to make that call.
I'm more worried about you calling the power company and finding out how to switch off the grid.
I've been here for a while, and I may know some people.
He knows orbit.
Yeah.
Hey, now that you're going through this for the first time, and you have guys that you worked with that are in that same position, whether it's Chaim Bloom in his first go round, or Eric Neander down with the Rays, or obviously Andrew Friedman with the Dodgers. How much have you been able to compare notes during this that have helped you answer questions that you might not be able to lean on other people about?
Yeah, it's hard to express like how valuable it is to have those relationships. And Chaim and I are going through very similar situations. He just moved a week ago also. So we were comparing notes on that experience. This is a relationship business, and even if we're all competitors, at the end of the day, like this is a community, and I think you're going to see a lot of that, as baseball moves forward, as we try to get back in the field, as we react to what's going on in the country right now. And there are people that are in charge of other teams that I consider very close personal friends, and it's invaluable. You can't express, what it means to be able to pick up the phone and just call those guys and get honest advice, and in a lot of ways, like this, I don't want to say this is like a lonely position in some ways, but like I've never done this before, and it's a new organization, and I'm learning people, and I'm trying to get to know people, and I'm trying to build the relationships. I'm trying to build trust, which I think is going very well, but at the same time, like it's all so new, and it's also new for all of us. And you have those relationships, but also I'm building relationships with the people here at the Astros. I can call those people. I can call the senior leaders at the Astros and even other people at the Astros. Like I would like to be able to say that I could call almost anybody in this baseball operations department and have a conversation about what we're all going through. That's the goal at the end of the day.
Hey, James, a common phrase in baseball is always that you can't measure heart. And I was just wondering, the way things are right now, when you haven't been able to get up and close with a lot of prospects, how have you been able to vet certain players you're interested in?
Yeah. Well, I might have missed the first part of that because the dog was barking outside the door.
I was just saying that, a lot of people always talk about you can't measure heart. You look back on a guy's career, he's a late rounder and he ends up exceeding expectations. How do you measure somebody's heart when you can't really see them face to face right now?
I think it's hard to measure heart even when you can see them face to face. So it's going to be tricky, right? You're not going to know how these guys are going to respond. You guys who've been out there in the field, especially when you're a major leaguer, like you've probably been the best player on your team, on every team you've ever been on in your entire life. And a lot of times, like you're the best player your town has ever seen, right? And you just don't know what these kids are going to do the first time that they run up against every other kid who's also been the best player on every team he's ever been on. And as the competition keeps getting ratcheted up, it's almost an impossible question to answer. That said, like, you can talk to the players, you can talk to their teammates, you can talk to the coaches, you can talk to the people who have been there when things have gone bad for them. Maybe it's off the field stuff. How do they deal with adversity? How do they deal with, the things not working out for them? So it's an imperfect science, to say the least. But that's why it's critical to have scouts out there who have relationships with the people who are around these players their entire lives. You cannot just go in and watch a weekend of baseball or a couple weekends of baseball and identify, who the best players are. You have to be able to gather that information from the people that are around them when you're not.
So James, what's the first book that's gonna go on those bookshelves?
Well, I got a few books that are under here that are kind of holding the computer up, so that I'm looming over it. I've got.
He's.
I got that.
Okay.
I'm working my way through that one. Here goes the computer. It's gone like I got a few. I got General McChrystal's book. I'm trying to work my way through that one.
Okay, heard good things about that one.
Yeah, no, it's good. I don't know. I like having a lot of books, and I read once that I think it was Nassim Taleb who wrote that he was more interested in the books that were on people's shelves that they hadn't read than the books that they had read. And you know, once my books get here and I get to put them up there, and I'll have to decide, you know, do I want to arrange them by subject or by year or by alphabetical or by autobiography, like whatever. I like to have a wide variety of books. I don't want to just read baseball books. I want to read books about, like, you know, everything. I mean, you know, just, I think having that diverse point, having that, the great thing about books is getting to hear from people that aren't like you and to get that different perspective on life. You know, if I'm just reading books that are, you know, that I already know, if I'm just reading, you know, books that I helped write a couple chapters in, like that, you don't learn anything from that. I want to read books that are from a completely different point of view.
I thought for sure Julie was going to have the follow-up question of what kind of dog you have.
Oh, I already know. We've already talked about Daisy.
I don't know the answer, so help me out.
Hold on.
Daisy made a Zoom appearance on one of our interviews.
Daisy was not happy with the move.
Wow.
That was for her puppy. When she
Tell Daisy it's really hot right now in Houston.
So here's the thing, actually, like, I go outside and I take her on walks. It's hot, but like, I'm used to walking outside and just getting like a sauna of humidity hitting me in the face. And I don't feel like we get that here. Like, I honestly, like, I know it's hot.
Just wait.
It's not.
Just wait.
Just wait.
It's coming.
Well, summer.
I'll get you a book about that. Okay, don't worry.
Yeah, okay.
No, it is similar. It's just you've decided to move during one of the hottest weeks we've had. That's for sure.
Yeah,
and that's what I've heard. But you know, when we left, you know, it was turning into Florida summer, which is just a season above normal summer. So I've got a, you know, a certain expectation of what it can be like when it's really, really hot. So, you know, fortunately we've got a pool. It was green a couple days ago. I'm learning how to turn a green pool clear, so that we can just throw the kids in there when the moving truck gets here and just get them out of the way and get them out of the house. We're getting there, but if anybody's got pool, I can use them because I don't know what I'm doing with that. Hopefully the draft is better than my attempts to de-algae my pool.
Yeah, I agree. So you're moved in, the kids are taken care of, the wife is out with her friends, the dog is taken care of. What is James Click doing for fun? The draft is over. You've got a couple hours to yourself. What is James Click doing? What are your interests?
I mean, listening to your podcasts.
Yes, you're the man. Okay.
Wow.
Talk up.
I don't know if I should be happy or nervous.
I just listened to the Gary Pettis one. I thought that was great. I loved hearing Gary talk about the '86 playoffs. Like, those are some of the first playoffs I remember as a kid. I'm sure Gary doesn't like to hear me say that, but, like, you know, I remember those. Like, those were a lot of fun. Yeah. I mean, you know, I got a whole shelves to fill up with books. You know, if I can find some books, that'd be great. You know, I don't know. I mean, I don't really have free time. Kind of a pop-out answer, but like, hopefully as soon as the draft is done, you know, even before it's done, we got to figure out how to start up spring training. Because, you know, I'm keeping an ear on the ground for those conversations, and you know, I think that you know, that hopefully we're getting close to getting back out there, which would be great. You know, and it's
all right. How about this? It's a happy hour show. So, like, at the end of the night, maybe a big ice cube and a small pour, just to relax.
I mean, look, I'm a wine guy. Dusty sent me a bottle of his wine. I was terrified because I don't want to open it and not like it, and then have to go to Dusty and be like, Dusty. but it was good. Like, it was really good. Like, it was this nice Syrah blend. Like, it was very drinkable. Like, I was worried it was going to be this big, like, fruit bomb, but like, I would recommend it.
Joe Madden got you on some wines probably too before you left there, huh?
Joe Madden, Jerry Hunsicker. There's some guys out there in baseball who know their deal when it comes to wine. I mean, we have all heard the story about Garrett Cole. I had a glass or two with Verlander in spring training. Like, it's a fun conversation. I enjoy it. I'm still a sucker for like a nice $12 Cote de Rome. Like, it just that's good enough for me. But if somebody wants to bring out the big guns, like I'll have some and say thank you. So.
Yeah, I don't think JB's drinking the house wine.
No. But he knows his stuff. He really does. He knows what he's talking about. But it's a fun conversation. I mean, it's something everybody likes. It's something you can all just, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter, where you come from. Like, let's have a glass of wine. I mean, that's one of the things I think is so hard about this whole thing. And I know you guys all know this, but like, not being able to like have people over and just sit there and have a glass of wine and talk. It's doing it over Zoom is great, but it's just that, the driveway wine is fun. So yeah, I guess to finally answer your question, I got 30 minutes. What am I doing? Like, I'm going to find somebody on Zoom and have a glass of wine and chat. So.
I feel like we just got an invite to your house once all this stuff is over for some wine. I feel like that's just what happened right now.
He invited me to happy hour. Like, like I got my solo cup because it's the only cups we got because all the other cups are on the truck. So,
James, you mentioned Jerry Hunsicker, and obviously he was very popular here in Houston, and you had your association with him in Tampa. What's that relationship like with him?
I mean, honestly, like I've let it fall off more than I should, and that's my fault. Jerry and I worked together for a long time. He was like just such a sage voice when I first got into baseball, and no matter like when you get into baseball, I think for a lot of people, the first time you get in, you're like, I'm going to turn this game on its head. Like, I'm going to, revolutionize the way that we broadcast or the way that we, do analytics or the way that we scout or, the way that we do arbitration, like whatever. Like, and I definitely came in with that. And I had so many conversations with Jerry, and I got to say, like, he asks the best questions of anybody I've ever met. Like, you would just start talking about baseball and he would ask a question that would just like the record would screech. And for those of you who don't know, records are so the record would screech in your brain, and you just be like, oh, wow. But I think like sometimes like I like to think that like I pointed some things out to him that maybe he hadn't considered before, but just having a guy like that around who had been there, who had done it, who had seen it, it's invaluable. And youth is always going to undervalue experience, and experience is always going to think that youth is too brash. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle, and that the ability to have a guy like Jerry around in those years in Tampa was just something that I don't think that I thought that I needed. And I give a lot of credit to the guys at the Rays and Andrew and those guys to know that like a guy like Jerry was needed. The number of times that Andrew would be in his first experience with whatever it was, and I could probably use something like that here. It's your first time doing whatever as a GM, and he would turn to Jerry and be like, "What happens now? What happens now?" And Jerry would say, "Okay, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. This is going to happen." And he's just, like I said, he asked the best questions of anybody I've ever been around. It was really impressive.
Hey, does anyone have last questions for James? I promise I'd keep an eye on the time.
I gotta go read some stories here to some small kids.
Bedtime stories.
More important
Go
things. Yep.
Yep.
Well, my 5-year-old, we just finished the first Harry Potter book last night.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
We're gonna move on to number 2. My 8-year-old has finished all of them. He devoured them, loved it. So we've moved on to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So we're getting there. We're getting there. So.
All right.
Yes, that's great. Well, this has been great. Thanks for joining us. I know you got a lot going on over there, so we surely appreciate it. And best of luck when it comes to the draft.
Look, I really do appreciate it. I will have a better background next time.
Plummer's going to flip the switch.
To
You know what's going to happen, right? Plummer's flipping the switch so he can make the pick.
Oh, just wait for it, because you know when it happens, you know exactly who did it.
Yeah. Like,
This is my moment.
Oh no! Well, we look forward to our invite to the housewarming, socially distancing lawn party that you're going to have us all over for. So we look forward to that. Thank you so much, James.
Good luck, James.
Thank
Good
you,
luck,
James.
James.